Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At grouphomeriches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business. And on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. As many of you know, we have a private group on School, and within that group, we do some exclusive live Q&As with me and Andy and the members of the group. A couple weeks ago, every now and then we'll bring people onto the call if we see people dropping knowledge in the chat or if they have really good questions. And a couple weeks ago, we had Rachel on the live webinar. She was just one of the recent successes that I could see in the group. She popped on the live call, had an awesome story just in the few minutes of talking to her. And me and Andy were like, man, we definitely need to get her on the podcast for the full interview. And luckily she was able to join us today. So Rachel, thank you so much for coming on.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel.
We also have Andy on the call. Andy is the founder of Group Home Riches. He's been rocking and rolling for over 10 years now. Andy, welcome.
10 years on the internet, well over 20 years. Yeah, in quote unquote real life, non-internet metaverse.
He is the ultimate non-rock star guru.
We want our students to be the rock stars, but anyways.
Yeah, so as you can see, we want the students to be literally the face of Group Home Riches. So for those folks watching on YouTube. Before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, Rachel, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you're located, and just kind of what were you doing before you stumbled upon this business model?
Sure. So I'm based in San Diego, California, and like many, got into bigger pockets and into the whole craze of real estate being the path to financial freedom. And so back in 2020, 2021, saw the big wave starting, and we started looking into apartment multifamily investing. Both my husband and I have a sales background. So I work for a financial institution as a manager of business development. My husband is a mortgage loan originator. But prior to that, we've owned businesses. We had a satellite TV business back in the day, and then a limousine business. So hop from entrepreneurship to, for me, corporate America for that steady paycheck, those golden handcuffs. But over the years, over my 8 years at this financial firm, I see waves of people being displaced. And so, just looking for that security, that freedom, looking for multiple streams of revenue. So this last year, back in March of 2023, made the decision that instead of multifamily, we were going to do group homes. So essentially multifamilies within the same home. So instead of doors, we'll be looking at beds. So I'd listened to a podcast on Bigger Pockets, Davina, who's over in Riverside, and she runs 4 sober living homes. And the next day, we were so inspired. I had my husband listen to the podcast. The very next day, we were out looking at homes in a open house. And then that week, we made an offer on a new home for our family, a 4-4 home that'll make a great sober living home after we've been here for at least a year. And we moved in April, and our strategy was always to put our former home, which is a 4-3, but we turned it into a 5-3 with putting a barn door on what was our former family room. It does have a closet in there as well. So it's a gigantic bedroom. Our strategy was always to turn that into an Airbnb over the summertime, give us a chance to get things going with the various programs and figure out how to do sober living here in San Diego. And then in August, we made the pivot to sober living homes. And then take a step back, I bumped into Group Home Riches and the Gold Course, I would say April, May of 2023, and just devoured the content and did exactly what was taught in the Gold Course, which is to build a marketing list, call people, I do have my 9 to 5, but during my lunch break, I was calling in the evening time, drafting up email blasts through MailChimp, which is also recommended in school or the former Facebook group, and just really built a list, got things going. We turned the home, the Airbnb, into the sober living come September 1st. And that's a female home, has 14 beds. And we were full probably within a month or two. And
Unbelievable.
yes. And then
That's awesome.
yes. And then crazy enough, this is just so crazy and such a God thing. We were contacted in October by a landlord saying, I want you to rent my home as a sober living home. And I'm like, are we being punked? Like, this is crazy.
I love these stories. Continue. Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt.
Especially now that we're out trying to acquire our third home, it's like so difficult. But like how she contacted us, it was also my follow-up. So she indicated she was going to be in town on a certain date. So I scheduled a meeting for us to come out to view the home. So she probably was contacting other sober living operators, but nobody did that, like put a calendar event on her calendar and my calendar, which she accepted right away. So she was able to keep contact with us because we did that follow through, right? So we show up, look at the house. It's great for sober living. We opened the doors November 6th for our male sober living house. We were full by the third week of November. So it was just insane. So I've got probably 30, 35 people on our wait list. I have so much confidence that we can fill up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more homes. Now it's just a matter of finding the homes. So diving into the gold course as it relates to reaching out to landlords, I have the extreme confidence. I have the patience of a gnat. So, I'm just like, hey, how come you haven't called me back? It's an hour later.
By the way, I got to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
Having the patience of a gnat is one of the key ingredients for success. Like,
Yes.
Impatience will make you a fortune.
Yes, for sure. So, that's where we are right now, is looking for additional properties. I also have followed Pace Morby quite a bit. So he's got his Sub 2 community, which is creative finance, ways to acquire homes. I'm part of his Gator community when we first were trying to figure out what to do. So we have a home here in San Diego that we purchased back in 2018. A lot of equity built up in it. So we knew we wanted to take a home equity line of credit to deploy into some type of an investment, which ended up being the sober living home that I'm sitting in right now, or future sober living home that I'm sitting in right now. But at first I was thinking, maybe we'll just kind of turn the money and make some money off of the money. So I joined the Gator community, but you can't have too many shiny objects that you're going after, is really what I've learned in this whole process. So for me, it's group home. That's our shiny object. That's what we're chasing. No more looking at other things. You just can't do that. Like for me, it's just focus on this. And for sure, different parts of our real estate study are coming into play in terms of creative finance, in terms of looking for ugly homes and seeing whether we can turn them around. And certainly the Gator community has been a big help. I've posted some information about sober living homes, and there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of people that want to invest in this particular field. So I've got 2 or 3 investors that are willing to help us on our rental arbitrage. I'm just looking to find the homes. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. What kind of questions do you guys have?
First of all, I hope everybody rewinds and listens to that again, because so many golden nuggets of wisdom in what you just said, Rachel. I mean, so many. Number one, impatient as a gnat. You have the patience of a gnat. It is so important to be impatient, guys. You got to go quick. Like, listen to why Rachel's being so successful. She's not waiting around. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, how you're following up with people. Number three, God. God literally will like bring people into your life if you are working. Like that lady just showed up at your door. She's like, hey, I want to rent a property and I want you to run it as a group home or a sober home. So you got this interesting thing about how the universe operates. What was the other one that was awesome in there? I don't know. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm just writing some notes down. Yeah, there was a ton of golden nuggets in there that we'll come back to. Couple things I want to cover. One, again, just how quick she was with action. Like, Rachel, did you go through the entire course, or when you heard us say, like, hey, the first step to take is to start calling, building up your contact list? Did you do that, or did you go through and read the entire course?
Absolutely not. So I literally just pulled down the business plan this last weekend that was part of the gold course. So there's pieces of the gold course that are just gems that I didn't even realize were there. Maybe a podcast that I was listening to, y'all were talking about how to get investors and that there was a business plan in there. So I'm like, oh, well, there you go. So I just pulled it down and was editing it for myself. With the gold course, I literally just followed it step by step. And, it was in there. Pause. Don't go off and try to figure everything else out. Just build the list. Use Fiverr to outsource some of that if you don't have the time, which, I didn't have the time to just spend on the internet, yellowpages.com searching. So outsource some of that. What I found for me is at this point, I've got two programs. We have 9 MOUs, 9 business agreements with various entities that are sending us the residents for the home. Only 2 of the 9 are the ones that are filling our homes up. So I would love to keep bubbling to the other 7 that are not sending us people, but I don't have bed space. So, I'm not, I've got to slow my roll and not reach out to them until I actually have somewhere to put the people. And that's a good problem to have for sure. I mean, Airbnb, I would sit empty for many a days. And when is somebody going to sign up? What's going on? Why are they not booking the home? Why? We actually ended up booking our 5th wheel as well out of our front driveway, which was hilarious. I put our truck that pulled the 5th wheel on Turo. My husband and my kids were joking, when are you going to start to rent us out? What platform are you going to use for that? But, really monitor everything that you've got.
Yeah, it's a very extreme example of the stuff that we always talk about in the course and in our content really just coming to life. So there's a lot of people, and you see it in the school group all the time, people, oh, how can I start? I don't have any money. I can't purchase a property, et cetera, et cetera. They also have a ton of questions that are holding them back. They really try to dive into the nuance of topic before they get started. No, Rachel didn't do any of that. She started building her contact list, exactly what we say. She started making those calls, building rapport. It seemed like you did have the option for the home, but when you were doing your marketing, it didn't really matter if you had the property ready or not. As she mentioned, she has 9 MOUs, which are memorandum of understanding, if I remember right, memorandum of understanding, which is basically just, it's like a non-binding agreement that just says, hey, we're going to do business together. So Rachel has 9 of those with 9 organizations that, just off the top of your head, if you had to estimate 9 of those organizations, how many clients do they have? Like, I mean,
Each one of them 30 to 50 clients on a monthly basis. So
yeah, we're looking at access to almost 1,000 people per month. She built up that demand. And on the flip side, I think you brought up God. I think God helps people that help themselves. So I don't know what it was, just the energy or something like that, but some investor saw that or reached out to you before you even reached out to it. We tell people all the time, like, look, this solves not every problem, but this solves a lot of problems that a lot of investors have. So lack of cash flow, just lack of control over the property, deferred maintenance. There's all these issues that this business model actually solves. And Rachel had an investor reach out to her. So you didn't have to look for the investors and pitch them and twist their arm or trick them into letting you lease and then operate under the radar. This investor wanted to work with you. And it's not just, you don't have just one investor, you have like 2 or 3 that you're working with.
yeah, I mean, that was the landlord that reached out to me. So that was pretty amazing and totally a God thing. We weren't looking, we weren't ready, we weren't totally, we were still trying to figure out the business. It's definitely when you've got your first discharge, when you've got your first conflict resident to resident, when you've got the first person complaining about expensive items being stolen out of the home, those are different hurdles that you have to realize, have to face, and have to kind of walk through. So we were still like just learning how to operate the first home. And this lady reaches out and we're like, okay. And I just couldn't believe that we show up, and my husband and I were on a date night and sitting in a poke bowl place and having a conversation with her. And we literally beat her up a little bit on the pricing. My husband loves to negotiate. So she offered the price to us and we got her down by $100 a month. I mean, no big deal, but as I'm looking right now for another rental arbitrage, it's definitely on the lower side of market rent that we were able to procure this home for. We put it in the lease agreement that we're operating a sober living home. So she knows, and she was full disclosure. I mean, she reached out to me for this purpose. We also, at her home, converted her formal dining room into a bedroom. So we had in the lease agreement that we were going to put a barn door or a closet door across the opening for that dining room so that we could turn it into a 6-bedroom. So this was a 5-3 and we turned it into a 6-3. So our men's home, we actually have 16 people are in that home. So, and it was literally like goosebumps and just like spirit moving like crazy when we were sitting at that restaurant on our date night. And I was like, I can't believe this is so awesome. God is so awesome. And just feeling that feeling of the Holy Spirit just running through your body. So it's pretty incredible. I'm praying for the next the next acquisition to come that easily. I mean, I get calls every single day from the direct clients too. And it's sad to hear people. I mean, in San Diego, we've got 20,000 homeless individuals, and most of them are homeless because of drugs or alcohol and mental health. So right around Christmas time, we had a gentleman who was in a hotel, and he's a veteran, 62 years old, and he was just crying. He was so afraid. There was drug deals going on all around him. He knew that he would relapse if he continued staying in that situation. So we put him in our home. We had an opening. We put him in our home without being sure that he would be picked up by a program who would help fund him. He served our country. He's a veteran. So we just couldn't leave him sitting in that situation where he felt like he would relapse. So it's awesome to be able to have those times where you can also give back and help out. I mean, fortunately, we had one of the programs pick him up straight away, which during the holidays was crazy. They got him in for an intake appointment and they picked him up for funding. So it wasn't too many days that we scholarshiped him in, but it's just awesome to have those moments where you are giving back.
I know you've had a little bit of experience in real estate and in business prior to this. It's kind of the like spiritually rewarding aspect of this business. Was that one of the major draws for you?
Yes, indeed. I personally have 16 years of sobriety. It took me going to Betty Ford and strongly working a 12-step program, AA, to get my sober legs under me and to really realize how much more to life there is when you're not drinking or using. So I definitely have that foundation in the disease of addiction. My husband celebrates 17 years this month, end of January. So we both have that core foundation. And I drive around San Diego, and I've been here for almost 6 years now. And I came from Phoenix. At the time when we left Phoenix, there wasn't that many homeless individuals in Phoenix. It's definitely growing now. But I remember driving around and thinking, my gosh, there's so many homeless people. Why did they get rid of sanatoriums? What is going on? This is just horrible. People are miserable out there on the street. They don't want to be in this disease. They want to get better. I just know they do. They just need that protection, that safety net to feel better, to get better, to have some clean time. And once they have some clean time, they'll realize that they just don't want to do this anymore. So it's been such a gift to see that. I was just at our women's house on Saturday, and there's a gal in there who is legally blind. She can only see shapes. So she can navigate and walk around the lady's house without a problem. But she journals, and she says, I journal, but I can't read what I'm writing. And she was homeless for 3.5 years, and she's a drug addict. And on Saturday, she shared that she will be celebrating her 60 days of sobriety this week. which is just amazing. And she indicated that it was due to our house being surrounded by the love and the protection of all of the gals in the house. And they all just work together. She can't figure out the microwave, so she's always got to get help for the microwave because she can't read the buttons. Everybody just helps each other. It's such a great community. And that part of it is just so incredibly rewarding.
Love to hear it. And those are the real riches, right, Andy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm listening to this and honestly, I'm inspired, number one. I'm joyful, number two. And although I know they say don't be proud, there's a sense of pride, I think, for Brandon and I when we hear these sort of stories, because the reality is, when I was doing this 20 years ago, getting these things set up, I realized, I don't know, 4 or 5 years into it, I'm like, I can only scale this business so much, right? I'm not going to be able to scale this in San Diego, scale it in Phoenix using 2 cities that you just mentioned, Rachel. And people started asking me, how are you doing this? And eventually I put it on the internet, and I don't know, Brandon, doesn't it bring you a sense of joy and pride in hearing stories like what Rachel's doing? Again, these are my riches and our riches that we get out of it. We get to hear these stories. It's unbelievable. Think about the amount of people that Rachel, within a couple of months, is having an impact on. I mean, we're talking, it's tremendous. It's so amazing. So sorry, I'm prating right now, but I love hearing these stories.
No, it's a 360 win all around. So we get to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I heard, it's one of my favorite sayings, when you help one person, it won't change the world, but it changes the world for that one person. And
I love it.
To change the world for one person and help them get better and feel better and, feel community. I mean, most of the women that are, speaking for myself as a alcoholic in recovery, I didn't have as many female friends as I did male friends. So all of the gals say, I never had female friends, but now all of a sudden I've got this community of women that are loving me and helping me out and helping me get over a breakup or helping me get over a bad day at work or whatever. It's awesome to see that. Same thing with the guys. They're all incredibly supportive. My husband is just glowing with excitement over people asking, can you be my sponsor? Can you be my mentor? Can I call you if I need help? So those are definitely the riches that come along with this. So it's a shiny object. There is some money that can be had in this particular business. The one thing, because we scaled so quickly, we invested in the first home, the lady's house, in April, May, outfitting it with furnishings, etc. And then having another home come online in late October, November. We are in a cash crunch because it does take 60 days or so to get paid by a lot of these programs. So you kind of just have to, that's where the patience of a gnat gets a little bit extreme for me because I'm just looking at the bank balance going, okay, come on, funding, come on in. So you have to realize that as well and have a little bit of working capital to run off of or some headroom and credit cards to run off of for that first probably quarter, 6 months until you're really cash is just rolling in. So I mentioned that when I chatted with you on the last Q&A that I get nervous with the credit card debt that's there. But you said, just think like Michael Vick and keep crushing it. Not
the Michael Vick analogy. I love that.
Not the abuse side, but the running really hard and fast and making sure that the money comes in the door. So
can I ask you a question, Rachel? So obviously I've run and we run a number of different ways as far as we've got private pay, we've got people where their families are paying, we've got people that are receiving SSI, SSDI from the government. We have contracts with various organizations. We've got contracts with counties. And typically when you start dealing with contracts with counties, that's where the ARs, and for those of you out there that don't know what an AR is, that's your account receivable. So like Rachel was talking about, you're going to send an invoice to the county and then, these counties are slow. They're going to take, like she said, 30, 45, 60 days to pay. And oftentimes you can start, once you get rolling with them, it's a little bit easier. You can get paid faster. But I was going to ask you, Rachel, so are the majority of your clients coming in from the county, and then you have contracts with these non-governmental organizations or governmental entities, and that's who you're getting paid from, or where is the money coming in from?
Indeed. So it's nonprofits that have the
Okay.
contracts from the county. The county's funding the intensive outpatient or partial hospitalization. For them,
Nice.
it's less expensive, like for Medi-Cal recipients, it's less expensive for them to put somebody in an IOP with supportive sober living than to put them in a 90-day residential treatment. So that's why
Okay.
try to qualify so many to do IOPs with sober living versus a residential, because we don't have doctors, we don't do any activities of daily living, we don't dispense medicine, we give them a lockbox. And for me it was really important to do everything the right way. So we've got some of the highest levels of insurance. I know that folks on the school platform talk a lot about what insurance is it? Next Insurance, is it State Farm? Who do you go with? Certainly happy to have you reach out if you are looking for sober living insurance. My sober living insurance gal spent 3 hours with me walking through all the different scenarios I would run into and how I would handle them from an insurance perspective. So it was incredibly robust intake for us to get covered by them. And then we have the highest maximums possible. I know not everybody in San Diego operates that way, certainly. But for me, it's helped me earn some additional contracts that I wouldn't normally have qualified for as a newer,
Yes. Yeah.
because we've got the highest sexual abuse and molestation limits, for example, even though we have no children in our house. They want that for the resident to resident if there was an incident. So I don't want there to be, but it's the nature of life.
Now, can you walk through just how you figured that out? Was that something, because as you mentioned, there's a ton of questions about that on school. So did your contacts kind of help you and kind of show you the insurance that was required and connect you with that insurance lady? Kind of walk us through that, because that is a very popular subject and one of those things that hold people back.
For sure. So they say your network is your net worth, and it's totally true. So for me, through the Gator Tribe, through Pace Morby's Gator Tribe, I had posted out there initial questions about sober living, got connected with a gentleman who's up here in Vista, California, who had just begun his sober living entity about a year before we did. And he and I became fast friends. We've met a couple of times. He's been invaluable with help on how to connect with the various programs and getting those MOUs. I know it's about an abundance mindset. I'm sure also it was fortunate that we were about 55 minutes away from each other. So we're not going to be in direct competition with each other for the various entities placing residents. So I'm sure that was also fortuitous, so that we were not. You want to help everybody start the business, but if there's somebody like literally next door to me, I may be a little slower on sharing with them the hard-earned details of who I've been in contact with, though. And I want to have abundance mindset, but I also want the programs to place people with me. But anyways, that's how I was able to connect with the insurance opportunities. So he gone to a conference regarding recovery residences, and he sent over to me probably 6 or 7 different insurance options. And this ended up being the person that I went with. And it really had a lot to do with her thoughtful intake and kind of alluding to some of the issues. For example, I know that it's popular to do co-ed houses, but I'm not sure we'll ever do co-ed houses. If your insurance carrier really knew that's what you were doing, I don't know for sure if they would love to insure you, just because of some of the risks that can occur. I would love to do houses with children. That's really my heart, is helping the kiddos that, are struggling, watching their parents go through addiction. But I have to figure out some really good guardrails, whether it's like a condotel where there's locking doors for each one of the places, so that I can make sure that everybody is safe. So I might steer towards caution as far as safety and risk goes, but I think it's a pretty good combination. Aggressive and a go-getter when it comes to sales, but also cautious when it comes to just making sure everybody is safe.
Love it. I definitely want to tap into sales a little bit, but before we get into that, so it was through your network that you were able to kind of figure out the insurance route. What about the licensing? So you kind of had mentioned how some people have services. I'm sure they're in counseling. what type of licensing process did you need to go through, certification? All right, walk the people through that for a little bit.
Sure. So none. You don't need a license at all. So, we are just a landlord with guardrails, essentially, is what I tell people. So we don't take insurance. We don't provide you with services. None of that. For me, again, I did find it very invaluable to become certified with my local entities. So in every single city, you're going to have an affiliate of the NAR, which is the National Association of Recovery Residents. So you're going to want to connect with your local affiliate for NAR if you want to run a sober living house and have them come out and certify you. There's a cost. So for me, I think it was, $1,000 or something. It's well paid for itself. So in the very beginning, most of our residents were private pay. It took a little bit to ramp the female house. So I would say the first 5 or 6 residents were private pay from being listed on my local SOAR affiliate. Also in San Diego, we have the Recovery Residents Association of San Diego. That is a county funded certification entity. They also have an online directory. So they've come out and done the inspections for our homes. And most of the programs that I am contracted with, their first question is, has the RRA certified your home? So you don't have to get licensed, but if you want to be listed, for example, on the independent living, the ILF independent living facility for your local town or municipality, you probably need to be inspected and certified by that entity. So, don't be afraid of doing it. Just get it done. And that way you can get some business, really. It's what it's all about. It's just getting the referrals and getting the people in the door.
Beautiful. And for the folks out there that are kind of either in analysis paralysis or about to be in it, this was not stuff that you sat around studying for months and months and stuff like that. As you mentioned before, network is net worth. Did you have like the contacts that you were kind of marketing to? Did they kind of point you in the right direction for all of those things as well?
It was that same gentleman who's 55 minutes away, the one who I'd met through the Gator tribe. He's the one who told me to get certified by the RRA. And it really is also Googling. Google's your friend. Ask Dr. Google. You type in there whatever your demographic, whatever you're going to go after, Google and see what comes up and see if it's a directory and then figure out how to get on that directory. So it's a combination of both.
Beautiful. Now, one of the recurring themes that we've been doing in the school group, the live Q&As, and we've noticed this just by working so closely with our done for you clients, is how important sales is with this business. And not like, when I say sales, a lot of people probably think of like they've never worked in sales before. They're thinking of car salesmen or like pushy cold callers, telemarketers, right? It's totally not like that. But how important were your sales skills when it came to kind of building your contact list up and things like that?
Yeah, it's really important. So from the gold course, you guys have the spreadsheet format. So I use that spreadsheet format, and then I would put down all the amount of times that I would contact them. And I mean, it literally is 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times before you'll get on the phone with the people. And then to get them to come out, oh, well, I have to inspect the home before I send residents to you. And so to get them to schedule that, especially over the holidays, was crazy difficult. I think you say it best where you say just to get them to do their job. It really is to get them to do their job. There's a tremendous need to house people, but to get the individuals who are doing the placement to actually send people your way, it takes like a force of nature. You have to call. You have to find their personal cell phone number or get their personal cell phone number and text them. You have to send them emails. I have done drop-bys and brought them. I found out this person is vegan, so I brought vegan cupcakes by. I have, brought candy and different gifts by just to get their attention, the ones that I know are sending a lot of people, to get their attention and to get them to start to work with me. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So for me, it's really about the follow-up And once you have the business, it's not just like letting it stay on autopilot. I just recently sent out a survey to entities that are doing a lot of business with us. What do you want us to stop? What do you want us to start? What do you want us to continue? So, just that continued communication. They want to know when their residents are having difficulties with other residents in the home. So we have our release of information and we share with them what's going on because we are the eyes and ears when they're in the home and they're away from group. They only get to spend, I don't know what, 5-6 hours a week with them, but they're spending a heck of a lot more time, 173 hours a week or something in the home. So we're their eyes and ears. So follow up and communication is incredibly key. I am a workaholic. I am usually working from 7:30 until 9-10 at night. I know this grind is going to slow down eventually, but I've also kind of like trained myself to be a workaholic. And so now that all the beds are full, I'm like, and I finished the book. So I'm ready to send that off to the CPA as soon as I get my W-2 and my 1099s. I'm like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And so I'm looking for rental properties, trying to figure out the math if we should just do a purchase of our next home. So it's really just about that diligence and that grind. Eventually, I'm sure one day I'll be able to relax, but I don't know if I will. I really like multitasking and doing a lot of things too.
Well, eventually there's a good chance once you have your systems in place, once you have your operational managers, you started kind of on the real estate investor path. So once you kind of get this automated and systematized and everything like that, there's a good chance you just put on your real estate cap like Andy. So
Yep.
Andy's got this all automated. For the new folks listening out there, Andy, how much time did you spend on operating the group home business this month or last month?
Yeah, nothing yet because I haven't even looked at the books, but typically it's about 10, 15 minutes a month because I just log into QuickBooks, check it, double check that everything reconciles to the bank account, even though technically the bookkeepers are supposed to be reconciling things, but I want to double check their work. And that's about it. Now, again, I don't want to give the illusion that this is some sort of like get rich quick scheme, right? You've got to go out there and you've got to hustle and you got to work at the very beginning. Getting these things set up is not, I don't want to say that it's hard, but it does require work. And as Rachel alluded to earlier, you are going to have challenges in this business. You're dealing with human beings, right? So people are going to get in fights, stuff's going to get stolen. People are not going to be happy with the quality of the sheets on the bed. There's just little things that will pop up. But guess what? That's how life is. But once you get it systematized, like Brandon said, you really can automate this business. You really, truly can.
Yeah, and you guys here, you can go through all the podcasts. You'll hear Andy on the call. Or in the car. He's got to take like calls sometimes. That's because the grind, maybe it's not a grind now, but I think it's kind of a passion project. Andy's just always looking for deals on the road, checking on properties. But I think you kind of do that because you like it, right, Andy?
Yeah, exactly. You're never really going to stop. Listen to what Rachel just said. She's like, it's in her blood. It's in her DNA now. This is going to be a successful trait of all, whether they're financially wealthy or spiritually wealthy or whatever. You can't stop. I told my kids this morning because they went back to school for the first time in a couple of weeks and both of them were like, I don't want to go back to school, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, guys, you have to go back to school, just like you have to go back to work. You have to keep going because if you lose your momentum, you lose everything. You can never, ever, ever lose your momentum. It's okay to take some breaks. It's good to go on vacation, calm down a little bit, but you cannot lose your momentum. If you lose your momentum, it's like what happens when the airplane stops its momentum in the sky? It will crash. Same thing as on a little bike. My kids love to ride their bikes. Well, guess what? If you're riding your bike and you quit pedaling, you will fall. So you can't lose your momentum.
Yeah. It was funny. My kids, we were in the car yesterday and we found out one of the gals that was in the house was supposed to be funded by a program. And it turns out that she potentially was lying to us and she was calling me to tell me that she's moving out. So my kids are like, no, this is not right. We got to kick her out. When I owned the business, when somebody isn't paying, they've got to leave right away. And it was just so adorable to, first of all, see their passion behind, like, you do have to get paid. It's a business. We're not housing
Yeah.
people free. And to see them take that ownership hat already. I mean, they're 12, they're triplets that are 12.
It's
And
awesome.
it's
You're
awesome.
teaching them so many amazing life lessons too. Like when the kids get to watch mom be an entrepreneur and run her own business, like you are teaching them these success traits, right? Because if they see you just clocking in and clocking out over at Whataburger or what, well, you guys don't have Whataburger out there, but Tommy Burgers. You guys have Tommy Burgers, I think, in San Diego, don't you? I know they do in Los Angeles. But like if you're just clocking in and clocking out, like you're not really giving your kids any real lessons, in my personal opinion. When they see you running a business, wow, it's next level stuff.
Yeah, I was inspired and I thought that was really cool. So I also have my real estate license. As soon as I get enough passive income coming in, the golden handcuffs will be off, and then I'll be able to just focus on that full time. My husband works for a fantastic, or he's a 1099 for a really good mortgage broker. So they do all sorts of loans, DSCR, or hard money, bridge, all of it. So we're going to be the great combo in terms of doing real estate investing. I know that there's some factors that can come into play when you're a real estate agent, because we have a lot more licensing and different things we have to follow, but we can also bring, the buyer side commission to the table and close. So, our goal initially was to just do a property a year, and that would be an owner. Every year we do an owner occupied move. So we buy big homes, we pack up again a year later and move to the next home. But obviously the rental arbitrage, just fell into our lap. And that's really how you can scale faster. Also, it's not so much headache to move. Moving a big house with a lot of things inside can be a pain in the neck. But, this home, I've already figured out where the beds can be in this home. And we're like, well, I guess we might be moving in a few months, because come April, we'll have been here for 12 months and then we can actually go on to the next house. So that can be another strategy for operating your group home. And obviously when it's an owner occupied, you don't have to come up with the 20% down. You can just do, the 5% down, and you get better interest rates, et cetera. So that was going to be our strategy, and it will still be our strategy, just as long as we can handle moving every year.
I have a feeling once you do get rid of the golden handcuffs, which, just to rewind for everybody. So Rachel still has a full-time job. I would say almost 2 full-time jobs. She got a nice little clan of future operational managers. And then on top of that, she's running 2 full-time sober living properties. So I think that'll clear up time to get into more real estate investing strategies. That's what I kind of foresee. So yeah, there's so many ways to find properties, creative financing, off-market properties, probably learn all those strategies. So I can't wait to see it. You kind of brought up, you've talked about kind of how you're on a cash crunch now, because a lot of the organizations that you're working with pay, it seems like it's a net 60. Talked about eventual passive income. Do you want to kind of give an idea of, I think you have close to 30 beds, if I'm right? So what does the cash flow look like on these types of properties?
So the programs pay between $800 to $1,000 per bed here in San Diego. So, and then with our house leader, they are in the property for no rent whatsoever, and they wouldn't be funded by a program because they have too much sobriety, so they aren't qualified for any type of intensive outpatient. The assistant at each one of the homes is half price, so like $500 a month. So we're cash flowing pretty good on our pro forma. I just want to see it in the account, of course. So let's just say 28,000 or so monthly, and the pro forma shows about 50% profit. So obviously we had, it's about 30,000 to get the home going. For example, the rental arbitrage with the security deposit and the first month's rent, and then all of the furniture. We're not getting the nicest furniture. We'd certainly hit up Facebook Marketplace and offer up for some of the furniture. I did, get some new couches. So that first impression when you walk in the door is kind of a wow with the couches, and obviously TVs are purchased new. We have a house computer for each home, so that's new. But besides that, a lot of the artwork, a lot of the things throughout the home are from local thrift stores, but we make it look really, really nice. If you go to our website, you can see a video walkthrough of both of the homes, so you can really get sense and flavor of what it looks like inside the homes. And it's Amazon for the win for the beds and for the sheets. So we've got some months of bringing in that money before I really start seeing the good cash flow come in. But there's definitely some money to be made in this particular business as well. I also have really taken your advice as far as like an operations manager. And for me, when we ran my satellite TV business was an incredibly monetarily successful business. And the mission throughout that particular business was to make our employees earn money that they'd never earned before. And I have the house leader at the female house. We've already appointed her as our operations manager and put together a structure where she can get up to 6 figures as long as we can scale the houses, of course. But she's got this carrot that she's chasing toward. And I wanted to put that carrot for her straight away because I really want to make sure to build up people with us. So I want all ships to rise as we rise, and putting those people in place and putting that carrot for them to chase after, especially when you see that they're really good people. So I've got, her name is Shauna, and she's a great person, has really helped me with advice all around the sober living operation. So I've really grabbed onto her and looking for ways to reward her so that she wants to stay with our organization and make unbelievable money along with us.
Quick comment real quick. We talked about God earlier on. Do you know what the name Shauna means?
No.
It means God's gift.
No way. Oh my God.
Yes. Yep.
Ooh, that's so wild. I have goosebumps.
Brandon will tell you, I'm a big name person. I believe like names have meanings and subconscious meanings, even if you don't know what they are. So I heard that. I said, oh my goodness, that's pretty cool, especially given all the conversations we've already had.
Yes, that's awesome. I've got to share that. She's going to be really excited about that. And I literally just still have goosebumps over that. So that's amazing. That's awesome.
Something else, if I can quickly comment. Another one of these little riches that you get out of this business is empowering people, like you just said, not just your tenant base, or your client base, but also like your employees. Like you're going to be able to potentially give Shauna a 6-figure income. Now, granted, maybe that's not the biggest deal in the world in California, but like anywhere else throughout the country, if you're making 6 figures a year, you're doing good.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we've already got the whole structure built up. And by the time we get to 10 homes, that's exactly where she'll land at. But that's our goal. That's our forecast. The last time I did a business plan was with my satellite TV business. And so that's why I'm so inspired and excited to sit down and do the business plan and put together what our goals and projections are. Because when you put it on paper and when you're shooting and aiming for something, you get there. If you don't, and then you're just kind of just doing life. But for us, we're shooting and aiming for something. And it's generational wealth. It's helping people. There's so many gifts of this particular business model. So this is like beyond a shiny object. This is like, it's awesome. So I'm really happy that I stumbled on Group Home Riches. I'm really happy that I've modeled our business after a lot of the things that are taught by this program. And I'm just really excited to see where we're going to be in a year, where we're going to be in 2 years. By our business plan, we're going to be doing well.
Oh, absolutely. And, everybody always overestimates what they can do in a year, 12 months, but frankly, they underestimate what they're able to do in 3, 4, 5, 10 years. So yeah, just stick with the plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we're only a couple months in, so I definitely can't wait to see what you can do either. So just for a rewind, again, super inspirational interview, story, info. But for the folks listening out there, you've kind of heard a lot. It sounds like you've had a long career in this business. just listening to you speak and hearing the numbers and everything. But it's only been a few months, right? Remind the folks, like we're
Yeah,
recording in January of
September
24. Yeah,
in the
when
door.
yeah,
So
only
just
you know,
September. So it's been an incredible ride already. So I say shoot big.
not a bad first quarter of business.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Andy,
So
what a business out there can you kind of get rocking and rolling so quickly and so successfully? Not many that I know of.
yeah, it's pretty good. And the content and the information, we did a multifamily mentorship program that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. I did Pace Morby's Gator program, and that cost thousands of dollars. I mean, it is tapping me into an incredible network, but the value that I've gotten from Group Home Riches for the nominal cost is just like crazy good. So it's a really good value.
Yeah, we've taken kind of Andy's kind of motto with the group homes was the more people you help, the more money you make. We've
Yes.
kind of taken that with group home riches too. We played with price, but we found like, hey, it's just the more people that we help, the more revenue comes in, the more we can put back into the business, grow the team and everything. So yeah, at the time of recording, folks, the gold course is only $199. That is a one-time fee. Then we're going to have the optional school group as well, where you can join. I mean, it's close to 2,000 people now in the group. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more very soon. And you can kind of network with folks like Rachel, a lot of the people that you've heard on our podcast, as well as the team Group Home Riches. And then about once a month, me and Andy will pop on and do kind of a live Q&A on certain topics. So if you're listening to this, if you just stumbled on it, bare minimum, go sign up for the free training at grouphomeriches.com, and you can email us anytime if you have any questions. We're always happy to help. So, Rachel, I know you got to start hitting the phones here soon. So we'll wrap it up. We definitely have to do a part 2 here soon. I'm excited to see what you could do in the first year. I think it's going to be one of those record-breaking years that we hear about. So why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and parting words for the people out there?
Sure. So my website is empoweringpotentialhousing.com. And at the bottom, I've got to sign up for the newsletter. I am Rachel Romero on Facebook. That's where I hang out the most. And then Empowering Potential Housing is Facebook page as well. And my husband, with his mortgage loan originator broker, he's at valorlending.com. And then his name is James Romero. And we're starting to put together some packages as far as for ourselves to maybe just do a DSCR loan and just acquire our next property. If we can't figure out the rental arbitrage and find a landlord, we'll just purchase. You can't go wrong owning homes. They beat the stock market for sure. And
Yeah.
here in San Diego, going crazy. So we're playing with that, with those numbers as well. So he can help other members out as well. They're nationwide. And yeah, just feel free to hit me up. My phone number is right on the website as well. I'm happy to inspire other people or walk through some opportunities and how to do this business. And of course, the school group. So Empowering Potential Housing on the school group, Rachel Romero.
Yeah. When you guys see people you can tell like, all right, these people know what they're talking about. You can click on their profile and then you can just see all their contributions to the group. So I highly recommend when you do join the group, find Rachel and you can kind of see her journey progress. So you started posting from kind of the beginning of the journey, like, hey, we got our first property, it's furnished, and then you could kind of see it kind of grow from there. It's really cool to see, very inspiring. It's been, and Rachel, will include kind of links for everything that you talked about in the description, as well as it's come up a couple times, not only on this interview, but it's popped up on a couple interviews in the school group, kind of a lot of overlap. So folks, if you're interested in kind of creative financing and stuff, check out Pace Morby. I've heard nothing but great reviews from him, from multiple people in our group. And you kind of heard it mentioned on a couple interviews now. So definitely check him out if you're looking to learn about creative financing and stuff like that. Andy, do you have any parting words for the folks out there?
I think you need to just re-listen to this podcast is what I think. So many amazing nuggets of wisdom from this lady right here, from Rachel. It's just incredible. She's changing the world is what she's doing. So, and remember that quote that she said as well. So
Beautiful. All right, folks, we will wrap up. Again, if you're interested in this business, this is the first time you're hearing about it, you're curious, head on over to grouphomeriches.com, sign up for the free training material, and you can hit up me or Andy anytime if you have questions. It's Brandon at grouphomeriches.com and Andy at grouphomeriches.com. And yeah, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. Again, super inspirational, super informative. I've been jotting down notes. I think me and Andy both learned a lot. So I know you folks out there learned a lot as well. So thank you so much for coming on, Rachel.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
thanks, Rachel. Bye.
Bye.